In this episode of our podcast, SENsational, we are joined by Simone, Mattinson and Adele Wadey, who work in our parent support team. With combined experience of 18 years supporting parents and carers, they too are proud mums of neurodivergent children. In this episode, we discuss getting a diagnosis, what support is out there, plus tips and ideas for empowering your child and, importantly, yourself. Remember to hit the like button, comment and subscribe. It helps us to grow our channel and reach even more parents and carers. Thank you for joining us today, Simone and Adele. We're here today to talk about children with special educational needs and to offer a little bit of support for families right at the beginning of the SEN journey. So I was wondering if we could start with thinking about what are the benefits of getting a diagnosis?
Yes, I think I look at it very much as navigating round anything in life. You need to know what you've got and what it contains in a way. I often think about sort of travelling down an aisle in a supermarket and finding all of these tins and knowing straight away that they're peeled plum tomatoes and they're a tin of baked beans. If it was without the labels, you would just see an aluminium tin. You wouldn't know what was in it. You wouldn't know what to expect. And I've always kind of looked at it in that way because it's really important to understand what's inside and what's going on. Because otherwise, we're not able to offer the support. We don't know what to expect. And although, every diagnosis brings with it different challenges and different needs, it just summarises and helps us to understand what might be going on.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes parents are quite nervous about getting a diagnosis. You hear a lot of the time people worried about giving their child a label, and they worry that what that will mean for them further down the line in their education, in their prospects, for the future as an adult. But actually, exactly as Simone was saying, without that diagnosis, it's very difficult to know exactly what support your young person needs. So don't be afraid of getting a diagnosis because it can lead to getting the right targeted support for your young person as well.
I also think that as a parent who's been down that road of sort of, thinking that, or being told by people that my child was just naughty, that it was just that they're naughty, they need discipline.
Or different.
And different.
Yeah.
And for somebody to come along and actually say, your child has autism or ADHD or whatever it may be, for you to be able to sit there and it's kind of a way of saying, he's not just naughty. With the right support, we can understand where those behaviours are coming from. I think you touched on it, Adele, didn't you, there, where you said that it can bring challenges in life if you have a diagnosis. There's certain careers that you can't consider if you've got a diagnosis of autism or ADHD. Thankfully that's changing. People are understanding more and people are more open to looking at the positives of these diagnoses. But it's everybody's individual, and just because one person wants a diagnosis, that doesn't mean it's right for everybody.
No. I think as well, it's worth mentioning in our family particularly, it helped my child understand themselves as well. And have a framework. So I was understanding it from that adult parent perspective, but it helped my child to understand themselves through that lens and also then seek out other stories, other narratives to help them understand themselves in the world. And it was a bit of a relief. Really, if I'm honest, for all of us. So I think from those two different perspectives, it can be worthwhile.
And I think
to get
you're
that
right.
diagnosis.
If young people are of a sort of ability where they have insight into themselves, quite often you hear from parents and actually from young people themselves that they felt different. They always knew there was something different about themselves, and it worried them, and they didn't know why, and they didn't know why they didn't have the same level of friendships maybe as other young people.
Right, yeah.
But once they get this, some of them, it's actually a big relief for them to realise there's a reason why they're different, and they can start to understand that difference and actually celebrate it as well.
Yeah.
Not all young people want to accept a diagnosis though, and that's okay.
Yeah.
If
We're
we
all
have
individuals.
children, absolutely, and some people don't want to be defined by a diagnosis and actually do not want to accept that that diagnosis is there, and that's okay. We shouldn't force that on them either.
No.
It is very individual. I think also that, I don't know if you've found, Adele, and you, Laura, that children that have, let's say, autism or a whole range of, they seek other like-minded people out. They seem to draw to each other, and that gives them that kind of understanding of why that might be as well.
And I think that's why it's really important to also give our children, young people, those opportunities as well to kind of be with other neurodivergent peers. So kind of moving on slightly, I think one of the things as a parent, again, it's something that I experienced. You start to think, once you've got that diagnosis, you start to think, oh, how's this going to impact school?
Yes.
Yeah.
So as a parent, how can we work with our child's school in and around the child's needs at the beginning of this SEN journey?
I think the first most important contact you'll have if your child's in a mainstream school is with the SENco.
Yeah.
They're the key person for you to
Sorry to interrupt you. Can you just tell us what SENco stands for? Sorry,
it's the Special Educational Needs Coordinator. Both at primary and secondary school, there should be a SENco. And they usually have a qualification, so they have a greater understanding of the different kinds of special needs that young people can have. And they will be your point of contact in terms of any adjustments that are going to be made at the school, any individual education plans, IEPs that will be put in place. They will help to sort of guide you and your child through the journey at their school.
I think it's important to maintain really positive relationships with schools. It's very difficult, certainly prior to a diagnosis, if there has been that resistance to believe that a child might have an underlying diagnosis, that, you know, they've just been naughty. Schools, you know, we sit there and say, well, they haven't done this, we haven't done that. It's a lot of the time it's not because they don't want to, it's just lack of understanding. And I think the more you communicate with your schools and the more you talk to them about your child's needs. I remember when my son was in, I think he was in about year 6, and I remember going into school and talking to his class about some of the things that impacted on him. Certainly the sensory things, and why he might push a chair over if there was a certain noise that he couldn't deal with, and school were really open to that. I think that was easier in primary than it was in secondary school, but just try and keep it as positive as you can with schools. And
I think I found that you, as a parent, you maybe experience this yourself, there's a lot of form filling in, there's a lot of discussions with professionals and what have you, and you need to focus on the things that are challenging in order to try and understand what's going on. But there are a few opportunities to celebrate your child and talk about what their strengths and interests are. But sometimes schools, knowing what the strengths and interests are, can help to engage the children and help to support them in school. So maybe having those conversations as well about what helps and supports your child and what gives them that glow at home might also help to link into school. So I think that was something that helped us particularly as well.
Absolutely.
And I think Simone's right, you have to understand that, you know, for example, there are some SENCos that might be new into role that have less experience, or you might have some that are really experienced and know quite a lot. So sort of it's gauging the level of knowledge they have about what your particular child's issues are and maybe helping to educate them in a positive way, maybe giving them some information, steering them towards organisations that can, you know, provide extra support for them as well as for you and for your child.
I think there's much more awareness now, thankfully, than there ever has been, and that is getting better. But what we've also got to remember is, as parents of neurodiverse children, we actually probably see more of it than they do in the schools, because you're living it 24 hours a day. And for a lot of school staff, especially if they're fairly new to it, they're coming into schools, they've never come across this before. They don't understand where it's coming from and what's driving those behaviours. So to sit and talk to them, you know, and explain what it's like at home, and to say that these are the challenges that we have and these strategies really help at home. So if we could be consistent across school and home, it helps, most importantly, the young person, but also it makes life easier for the staff in school if the behaviours are being managed because they're understood.
A child doesn't just exist in either of the two environments, do they? They're in both places. So if you don't mind, we're going to just take a couple of questions from our parents that have been sent in from previous podcasts. So if you just bear with me just a second.
Yeah, absolutely.
So our parent question for this podcast is, as a parent, how can I prioritise my own self-care? It's easy to blame yourself for strategies not working or responding incorrectly to your child's actions.
Oh my goodness. See, the word prioritise as a parent, you just don't. You
not
don't.
in your nature, really, is it?
Absolutely not. You prioritise your child every time. I use analogies all the time, but every time you travel on an aeroplane and they do the, you know, straight down, you know, there's the emergency exits, they talk about the oxygen mask and how that falls, and you must put your own oxygen mask on before you help somebody else. And that's something that stays in the back of my mind. If you can't keep breathing, if you can't keep strong and healthy, you cannot support your child. And it's really, really important. So I think how you prioritise it, we're all different, we're all different. It's where you pull that support from as well. Making sure that you take time for yourself is really important. It's not always easy. There's a lot of people out there that don't have a strong support network around them. But it only has to be 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes. If your child is dysregulated, if they're screaming, if you know that they're safe and you are at burning point, it is okay just to walk away, keep them in sight, make sure they're okay and they're safe, but take that 5 minutes away and just walk away. Talk to people, reach out to your friends, to your family, and also look at those support groups that are out there. Other parents that are living a similar experience. Just say to them, how did you feel? What did you do? What can I do? It's about opening up and not being ashamed.
Yeah, I think talking to parents that are in a similar, and carers that are in a similar situation is really, really invaluable, because one of the things it can be, I found with my daughter, was it can be really isolating, because I was a stay-at-home parent, and you don't get that same school gate experience if your child's at a special school, or you're taking a child to meet children from mainstream. You don't hang around in the gate if your child's going to get dysregulated. It can make you very self-conscious in public about going out to places as well. So that's something to bear in mind. Make sure you still can, if you're lucky enough to have someone that can look after your child, do try and get out, because it can become very isolating and you sit within those four walls because you don't feel that you can go anywhere, just in case they kick off, in case something happens, or you don't want them to be upset or overstimulated either. But I think if you can go to, there's lots of different charities that have groups that hold coffee mornings, even they have helplines, just to talk to someone else, to realise you're not the only parent that's felt like this, and to get advice and support from parents in a similar position, I think is a really valuable thing to do.
I think it's also important to remember the impact that this has on siblings. So within a family, it's not just that one child that's feeling it, and to look at what's happening. It's very difficult as a parent because all your energy goes where it's required at that time. But when there are other children in the family, it's important to recognise that they're feeling it too, and perhaps find ways for them to spend time with you on your own if you can. And again, it's this pressure on the parent that, I've got to split myself in 1,000,001 directions and get it right, which, we quite often do get things wrong. That's okay. But to make sure that the siblings have got opportunities to go and spend time with other people or with you on their own, if that's what they want to do. And the word shame, we talk, don't we, about that guilt and shame. We were talking about it on the way here in the car. We had a great journey up, and we talked a lot about being a parent. My son's 30 years old now. I'm 31. 30 years old. And, I've had that journey. I've had 30 years of looking back, and I still feel guilty for things that I did or didn't do. And it's not helpful.
No.
It is not helpful to feel guilty. I did my best at the time.
With the information that you had,
exactly.
and the landscape that we were in at the time. Yeah.
And I look at the picture today and think, he's healthy, I'm healthy, we've got a great relationship, we got things wrong together and separately, but it's okay.
Yeah. And it's okay to say, sorry, I got that wrong.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Acknowledge that with your child and say sorry that, And I would just say, if you are supporting somebody who needs a little bit of self-care, finding out from their point of view what's meaningful to them. Because if one more person tells me to go and take a bath, I will honestly, I don't
wrinkled.
Yeah, it doesn't help me to relax. It doesn't help me feel better. But you're exactly right. My daughter doesn't like the smell of McDonald's. There's some sensory experiences in McDonald's that she really finds very challenging. Where my son, that's a normal place to go and have a visit, when you're a little one. So it is a self-care for us to nip out to McDonald's. And people are like, no, but you need to be on your own. You need to be in the bath. You need to be out lighting candles. And it's like, no, actually just popping out with him to McDonald's is a bit of my self-care. So just helping people to also understand what works for you and not having any guilt or shame around that is really important.
Absolutely.
So thanks for that. I really kind of really nice part of the discussion there. So moving on, we're just going to have a little bit of a think about support that's out there for parents. You did touch on it there, but can you think of any examples of support that is out there that parents can be accessing?
I think the group support is absolutely brilliant. I mean, when I first started working for Witherslack Group, I was absolutely amazed. I went on the website, I went to look, and I just thought, because like Simone, my daughter's 23 now. In fact, she's one of twins. They're both neurodivergent. And,
I thought you were going to say they're both 23.
Yeah, we get that.
But I just thought, wow, I wish there'd been something this sort of comprehensive and instructive when my kids were really young, because it would have been so helpful. And our help and support tab on the website, there is lots of different topics. There's ASD, ADHD. It's about sleep.
Sensory,
it's about
sibling. You name it, we've got it on there. And it all comes from both professionals. We've got our clinical team that are heavily involved in sort of informing these resource packs that we put out there, but also people like myself and our team that support parents on a daily basis. We're hearing the questions that they're asking, and we're feeding that back in and saying, look, do you know what? We really need some information on this, or a little bit of a support back. So it depends what support we're talking about. If it's practical support, that's there. If it's the emotional support as well, there's lots of different things. But as well as sort of the Witherslack Group's resources, there's so many support groups out there. There are people that, and again, there's official groups. There's like the sibling support. There is
the National Autistic Society, ADHD Foundation.
But then you've got sort of your parent forums. They're full of people that are walking the same journey as you, and I can't say it enough, they are the people that are the experts as well. They really are. You know, they're living it every day, and they can give you ideas and things that you've just not thought of. It might just be a tiny little snippet of something that makes a big difference. But yeah, there's lots in terms of things like the official side of things. You know, if parents are looking to get things like education and healthcare plans, we have EHCP support packs. There's other groups and agencies that offer that support as well. And then alongside that, there are
local groups as well, local charities
like
sometimes.
And groups like that specifically offer that support around those areas. So.
And also don't forget that social care within your local authority, you know, look at respite. And again, we were talking about taking time for yourself or time for siblings. And quite often you'll find that you may be entitled to some respite care where specialists will look after your child, sometimes even overnight, so that you can get that much needed break either with the other children or on your own. So there are avenues you can go down to request support as well, practical support.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think I might just add to all that wonderful advice, there's no shame in asking for support.
Absolutely.
Absolutely not.
You know, like you said, there are other people out there who are walking the same path and who understand and know some of the challenges, some of the absolutely beautiful, wonderful moments that we have with all of our children, but some of the challenges where that extra little bit of support might be needed, and there's absolutely no shame in reaching out.
And none of us are, you know, we don't have a crystal ball.
No.
We don't know what other people are thinking. And you know, I think when you work closely with somebody and you know somebody really well, you kind of intuitively know what to advise or what to tell them. But it's okay just to ask, you know, what would I do in this situation? What did you do? And sometimes the best advice that I've been given has been the most, you know, ridiculously small thing that somebody said, oh, well, you know, try this or try, and you think, oh my God, what a difference that makes.
Yeah.
You know, so the word shame comes up a lot, doesn't it, in these conversations? Shame and guilt, embarrassment. And we talked before about self-care and how do you manage that. Just going back to that, I think everybody says that, you know, you need to do this with your child, you need to do that with your child. Well, actually, you don't need to do any of that stuff. You need to do what's right for you and your family. Don't be ashamed, or don't feel guilty about letting your child have a little bit more screen time that somebody tells you is safe or healthy for them. If that gives you the ability to go and have a cup of tea or just have that break from them, there is no rule book.
Cook the same meal 7 times.
Absolutely.
Every night of the week.
And sometimes you can be really pleasantly surprised. As Simone said, people's awareness is so much greater. My daughter had a massive meltdown in a garage shop a couple of weeks ago.
I remember.
I mean, just, you know, absolutely throw yourself on the floor, screaming, shouting, and everybody was staring at us. And and eventually I took a deep breath and paid and got out. And this lovely lady ran up to me, threw her arms around me, gave me a massive hug and said, don't you ever worry about having a neurodivergent child. And it's just like, that was so lovely.
Just feeling seen and acknowledged. Yeah.
And someone saying, you did really good, don't worry about it. And that, I think, is hopefully getting more common, that people are aware and people are sympathetic.
You become good at supporting other people, don't you, as well? I know I'm, much further down the journey now, I'm much older, and I can see a situation where I think it would be really good if I just helped, but you know how to help. So just saying things like, are you okay? Or can I help with that? Or can I, just a little thing, so that people, it's that situation where you feel that all the eyes are looking at you and they're judging you, for one person to step forward and say, you're doing a great job. Or are you okay? Or well done there. Or just, it makes such a difference.
Yeah. So we've had a little bit of a chat there about ourselves as parents, just having a little bit of a kind of shift of focus. How can we think of ways to empower our children when they've started this journey of SEN and diagnosis?
I think it's really important to remind them how fantastic they are.
Yeah.
End of. You don't need to say because of, or because you, or in spite of. You are fantastic. Celebrating what they're good at. My son has got his challenges, still has, but he also brings so much. And if I need my mobile phone fixing, or I need my computer sorting, or I want to know something about my new car that I've just got, which is, it's got electric and and I'm like, oh, how do I do that? And he's going, right, I'll just explain how the energy goes from and it's just, he brings so much, and he's the most loving, wonderful person, and I remind him of that every single day. Keep telling them how wonderful they are, but also listen to them. It's really important. If they're saying to you, you don't need to tell people that I've got autism, or I don't want that. Respect their boundaries, because it's this is their life, it's them that's living it, and we should respect and listen to their wishes and their boundaries.
Yeah.
And I think also sometimes it's difficult for children when they're aware and you've talked about it and they know that they have a particular neurodivergence, and yet sometimes at school that may not be fully understood, and you'll have said to them, right, I've been to talk to your school, I've told them that you need a movement break. If you need a movement break, you've got your exit card, use it. And then there will be some teachers that are like, sit down. Yeah. And I think sometimes it's letting them know that they should come and talk to you about that, not to be upset, but actually it's a problem with that person's understanding and knowledge of them. It's not something that they're doing wrong. It's being positive and letting them know that, in fact, that teacher should have let you do that. It's in your plan. I will talk to the school. I'll make sure that they know. So it's not making them feel undermined and embarrassed about it as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's really important that we remember that, we might see what we feel is the best path for them, but they're individuals. Yeah. And we've got to respect that despite the challenges that they may have, and despite the fact that we're going to worry and we want to wrap them in cotton wool, that's not what they want. They want to just be able to take the path that their friends and everybody else are taking, and to give them that support there to say, it's okay to make mistakes, just as it is for everybody else. You will make mistakes. We're here to support you, but just let that leash go a little bit if you can. Every young person's different, but just make them understand that they're unique, they're fantastic.
Be a partner, I suppose, where you can,
absolutely
help to develop that ability to self-advocate when the time comes. I'll be your advocate.
Yeah.
But there will come a time where you'll be your own advocate, and kind of supporting that is a real gift, isn't it? I think for us as well, what was really helpful was thinking about directing or informing about other neurodivergent role models and neurodivergent narratives and stories that are out there, just to help with that, like you were talking about earlier, not feeling alone, not feeling isolated, not feeling different to everybody. That they might not be in your class, they might not be sitting on your school bus, but there are people that are walking a similar journey to you. Absolutely. And kind of making those connections again is a real helpful way of feeling empowered.
And again, some of the organisations have sort of forums that are safe and moderated for young people that or have different, say, ADHD or ASD. And sometimes it's useful to introduce a young person to that because they may not always want to tell us, especially when they get into their teens. All teenagers want private stuff and you know nothing, you're a grown-up, sort of. And that's the same for children that are neurodiverse, the same as it is for neurotypical children, that your mum's not always the person you want to talk to. And sometimes introducing them to forums that are safe spaces, but have young people with similar needs to them means that they can chat and again share their experiences and feel less isolated.
Yeah,
I think with a lot of with anybody, we all have unique skills, we all have unique things that we bring, and certainly when you're looking at things like autism and ADHD, for all of the challenges that brings, it also brings with it some fantastic skills. I look at some of the children that we have in our schools, and it may be that they're literal, or they'll follow a task no matter how challenging it is. They won't give up until they've completed that task, and great, they're skills that we should be selling. We should be absolutely saying to them, this is amazing, you don't give up, you are, and that very much, the black and white side of things. That's how it is, and this is how I'm doing it. And it's that resilience that they, I guess, pick up over the years, don't they? They're so used to being knocked back and misunderstood that they build up this resilience, and it's like, well, I'm doing it anyway, And I love that. I love that about the children that we work with. Yeah, and
they've each is finding their own strengths and actually promoting that to them.
Absolutely.
You're fantastic. Your attention to detail, your drawings are beautiful, and they, and it's sort of finding what their strengths are and really bigging them up.
Yeah. Fabulous. We like to end every podcast with what we call our words of wisdom. So could I ask you both, what are your words of wisdom for today?
Okay. For me, it's, I think it's about just remembering that everything, everything comes to an end. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Every little worry that you have will not be there in an hour, a day, a week. And to just keep going. It is really hard. It's a lonely place, that SEN journey, isn't it? But there is always a way forward. There is always a channel to take, and there's lots of people out there just in the same boat that are more than happy to help you, and to celebrate what you've got, because actually I feel really quite, I don't know, proud. I'm proud of what my son's achieved, and for all those days when he was younger where I felt that this is such a challenge, can't do this. I look back at those days now and think, wow, we got through that together. It was amazing. And that, there's so much good. There's so much good to come out of having a child that's got those additional needs. Just to remember that.
Yeah, brilliant.
And I've got 2 words, which is reach out.
Yeah.
Don't try and do it all on your own. Don't think you're the only person that's going through this, because it's a very lonely road like that. Yeah. And there is so much support, as most of there is so much help and support now out there. And it will help you so much if you can reach out, connect with other people, get advice, get support. And you'll try a million things and only a few of them will work, but the ones that do work will make a massive difference. So don't try and do it all on your own. Do reach out and ask for help.
Yeah. And keep your sense of humour as well. Yes. Remember, it's okay to laugh when things go horribly wrong, as they will. I can think of many an occasion where things went horribly wrong. It's okay to laugh.
Brilliant. Thanks for joining us today and sharing your professional but also your personal experiences of the SEN journey. I'm sure it'll be really helpful for those who are listening and watching today. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you.